If you feel any fear of putting yourself out there for your business, your messaging, your stories, video, interviews, or if you feel like you have to be perfect when you do this stuff, this episode is for you because I'm going to give you 6 concrete ways you can overcome this so you show up powerfully for your business, so you inspire customers and clients. And I'm sharing all of this with you as someone who was terrified to put herself out there for her business and really in general. I want to start with a funny story so you can see that our fears are sometimes sky high and the reality is not so bad. So about 10 years ago, I decided to put up a few videos on YouTube. I was by no means ready. I hadn't done any of the steps that I'm going to share with you that will help you today. And I put the videos up there. I got scared and I just never looked at them again. Didn't take them down, just didn't do anything. And I went to look at them several years later when I had been told again and again to be visible for my brand. And I thought, I have this YouTube channel, let's just see. I was so scared of the judgment I was going to face, the comments, everything. I was so scared. And I opened up my YouTube, shaking a little bit, looking at the laptop, and there's a comment there. And I burst out laughing, a funny emoji face. I heard a fart. Now, there was no fart, okay? I say that. There was no fart. But I share this because, yes, it was embarrassing, sure. But compared to what it was in my mind, it was nothing. And it's just a little moment so you can see it's rarely going to be as bad as you think. Now, let's get into those 6 actions that can help you. The first one, you might have not even thought about as a reason why you have this fear or this perfectionism. And that is you are not aligned with your purpose. You have this inner resistance to showing up for your business and sharing your message because you are not aligned. And that could be because you don't fully believe in the message, you don't fully believe in yourself, or maybe you just want to do something different and you're too afraid to go in that direction. I've felt all of those. The thing is that when you feel very aligned with your message, when you fully believe in it and you really believe in your ability to do what you're saying, you don't feel this lack of confidence anymore. You get this kind of big burst to be able to go forward. It doesn't erase the fear. There's more steps we'll talk about, but it definitely helps you to feel more prepared. And in this episode, what I want to share with you is there are 3 parts to overcoming fear of visibility. 1 is psychology. That takes time. 2 is preparation. And 3 are small, tiny actions you can take where you just keep repeating. But most people will tell you to just take the action. Throw yourself out there. Go do a speech. Jump into the fire. That might work for some people, but not for most. You saw with my YouTube channel, I put myself out there. I did those videos, and then I walked away for years. So I want this to be more sustainable for you than that. For me, aligning with purpose, the big issue that I faced was when I was in the fitness space, it was so much around weight loss and really targeting women's insecurities. And I didn't feel good about that. I didn't feel aligned with that. And so it made me very uncomfortable to talk about it. And it showed up. You could tell in my messaging, there was a awkwardness to it. When I would show up on video and say certain things like, let's work on this, it didn't quite resonate. And the most powerful visibility work I did where people really liked the videos or they showed up was when I wasn't in that messaging, but focusing more on what I believed in, which was the strength. So I would ask you now, in the messaging you're sharing, is there anything that makes you feel cringe? Anything you don't really believe in, anything that you don't fully feel comfortable expressing or doing? How can you tweak that? Number 2, mini actions for incremental confidence. Your confidence is never going to go from 0 to 20 overnight, but there are small repetitive steps you can take that will help you feel more comfortable and let go of that perfectionism. Give yourself the assignment for this week, if you've never done a video, You're going to create a 60-second one talking about one aspect of your business. You're going to record it in one go, and you're going to watch it afterwards. You have the choice to share it or not, but the big thing is, can I just do it? And if this seems easy to you, I want you to instead take that 60-second video and share a story, a failing, something that is a bit more vulnerable. You can always take it down, put it in your stories. It doesn't live there forever. Small, but powerful. And these kind of things will help you. It's the same thing of, for example, if you want to do a podcast. So when I'm helping people launch podcasts, one of the things we will do is mock shows. I will pretend to interview you. We will go through in a safe space everything so that when you actually do it, you feel good. Now, this is kind of cheating because I'm giving you a peek into a later action, but just so you understand how powerful that can be. Step 3, this is again one that you wouldn't have thought about, but one of the easiest ways to overcome your fear of visibility, putting yourself out there, is to focus on your personal branding. This is surprising to a lot of people because it's behind the scenes work. It doesn't involve you going out there, but the reason why it works is because you are preparing yourself better. And when you are prepared, you're going to feel more confident. So the preparation is understanding, what are my 3 to 5 brand values? What does my brand represent? A lot of times what we would do is come up with 3 adjectives that describe your brand. For fitness, it was playful, bold, and strong. That allowed me to really think about, what are the ways that I want to talk about this stuff? How do I want to talk about fitness as playful? About strength? What can I add? What I'm doing, I have this program called Pod Boost, finally live, yay, which allows people to become powerful podcast guests, get on shows, get clients from it. And one of the things I have people do, a lot of the program is actually on messaging, because if you nail your messaging, you can do anything. Content, marketing, interviews, all easier. In that messaging, we will look at their 3 to 5 speaker topics. What are the 3 to 5 things they can talk about that align with their brand? And when they know those, it's amazing to me to see how much more confidently they talk about their business. It doesn't matter if they were afraid of being on camera or video. They can talk about it powerfully because they've done the preparation. So I would think about it for your branding. What are the 3 to 5 values, attributes, things that you can make sure you talk about? Because it will help you feel more confident and more sure versus just jumping on a reel and hoping it works. This is strategy, okay? Making it a strategy for you. Now we're going to go into the next step here, which is step number 4. Understand the psychology of why it's happening for you. The reason you're afraid to be visible is not the same as for someone else. So I'm going to go through a few reasons why. And it's important for you to recognize, because when you know this, the aha moment comes and you can start to work through it. And I will give you very concrete behavioral science backed stuff to help you start to work on this. I also want to mention, after this episode, listen to the episode called Mind Games on this podcast, her first 3 years, with Charlotte Grimmel. She's a mindset coach for entrepreneurs and founders, and she goes much deeper into this topic. So, psychology. Does your fear of visibility come from fear of judgment? Are you afraid of criticism, rejection? Was there something in the past that makes you really sensitive to that? Social anxiety. Maybe even though you're behind a camera in many cases, maybe you still feel anxious knowing that people are going to see and judge you. Again, it comes back to judgment, but it also could just be uncomfortable with the idea. Spotlight on you. Do you have perfectionism? This is a very different thing, because some of you might feel like you can go on camera, you have no problem getting out there with your brand, but you can only do it if everything's perfect. You take 10 takes for your reels, makeup's perfect, lighting's perfect, and only then do you show up. That's still fear of visibility. And I will say I have nothing wrong with people really getting ready and prepared for it. But where it becomes a problem is if you're obsessing over every single thing that's not right there. That's still fear of visibility, and that might be something that you're experiencing. Comparative thinking. Are you comparing yourself? Let's say that I'm a marketing coach and I'm comparing myself to the top person in my field that has millions of followers, been there for 20 years, and their stuff is perfect and mine is not. How can I even go forward? You can see how ridiculous that is, right? They have a whole team. If you are showing up and it's just you, you deserve an applause. Think about that. And then lastly, this is one I don't want to go too much into because it is not my field, but early family dynamics. Were you the one that had to be smart, responsible, strong? All of this could play into why you don't want to let yourself down or other people, and why you're really struggling to put yourself out there. See if any of this resonates. Now, if it does, I want to give you some tips to help. These are cognitive restructuring tips, meaning we're going to shift those thoughts because these are deeper rooted things that you'll need to work through, but you can at least address them now. So if I have an anxious thought, I have a judgment thought, what can I do? Identify the cognitive distortions, the irrational thinking. The biggest ones are going to be overgeneralizing and black and white thinking. Overgeneralizing. I always fail every time I show up on camera. Nobody likes it. Nobody engages. It's my worst content. Is that true? What you want to do is look at evidence to the contrary. Find the piece of content that did okay or well. Create something else. Look at, maybe it's something else. Is there something else I did in those? Maybe the messaging was bad. And so they didn't like it, not because of me, but because it didn't resonate. Black and white thinking. This can go back to perfectionism. It has to be this way or it's that. It's amazing or it's crap. I was like this when I went back to YouTube and I was doing fitness videos again, and I wanted to be like the top influencers. So I had 3 videos, perfect makeup, perfect hair, perfect lighting. I would time the time of day, have a back white drop. I mean, I went ridiculously overboard here. Because in my opinion, if I didn't do all of that, it wasn't good enough. After about a year of filming this way, I decided that I was going to not do all of it because it was overwhelming and I was burning out. And I had one camera, tiny bit of makeup, wore what I would normally wear, and filmed the time of day that I could film. The engagement did not change. It wasn't amazing, but it also wasn't crap. And people still liked it. Another cognitive restructuring technique you can do is reattribution training. And this is one where, if you really think about it, in your business, you have done something well. You have. Doesn't matter how long you've been doing it for. But I bet that you constantly overshadow it by what you didn't do well. And not only that, you probably attribute what you did well to something outside of yourself. I got lucky. You have all of these ways that you attribute your success to things which are not to do with you. So of course you don't have the confidence to show up, put yourself out there, because you don't realize how powerful you really are. Reattribution training is about looking at, ooh, I got on this interview. I got this level of engagement because I did it. Because I was the one that made it work, because I have the talent to do it, because I took the steps. The more you do it, the more you build confidence in yourself, and you realize how powerful you actually are to put yourself forward. Now, the last thing you can do related to the psychology here are behavioral experiments. This is something I alluded to a little bit earlier, where I was saying you can take something that you're most afraid of. In fact, let's do it right now. Think of something that you are so afraid of doing in your business, but you know, related to visibility, you know it would make a difference. Is it making a video, a reel, being on a podcast? What is it that would make the difference? Think about it. Now tell me in your mind or out loud, why are you so afraid of doing it? What do you think is going to go wrong? Let's start with one thing, not all of them. How could you test that one thing? So as an example, I said when I'm teaching people to launch their own podcast, no matter their level of experience, we do mock interviews because a lot of them will say, well, I'm not really good at asking the right questions or leading a guest, or I don't know what to say. I create a safe space, just me and them. This is not going live or public. And we go through it. We do it. And they can see that actually I'm quite good at this. I just need XYZ. And I can point that out lovingly, not in a critical way. Can you create a safe space to do this experiment? That will help you a lot. Now we're coming to the final 2 actions you can take to overcome this fear of visibility that so many of us entrepreneurs have. The last one is the most important, and it's one that people skip, so stick around for that. But first, I want to prepare you for it. Visualization. That is a little bit woo-woo, but let me explain. When you are afraid of something, you have a physical reaction to it. And a lot of times that's because it's the unknown. And so your body tenses up. It doesn't know what to do. If you can retrain yourself to ease that anxiety and tension with that situation, when you actually go into it, you will be okay. This is all about the idea of self-hypnosis, for example. If you're more curious about that, on my Feel Good Naked podcast, episode 214, there's one with Marcella, who's a hypnotist. Let me check it for you. It is Hypnosis for Healing. That one is very great, very interesting. She goes into this a little deeper. But I'm going to walk you through a small visualization exercise now. Take your breath in. Believe that this will help you, okay? It's just a few seconds. Close your eyes or keep them open and listen to my voice. I want you to think about the thing that you're most afraid to do related to visibility. Think about it. Feel what your body's holding when you think about it. Now, separately, I want you to think about what's something you do so well. Doesn't even have to be in your business. Think about what you do so well. Think about yourself going through the actions of it. It could be a sport. It could be conversation. It could be anything. Just feel that. Do you notice the difference in how you're holding your body and the emotions that pop up when you are confident in what you're doing and when you had that fear that you're not? I want you to hold what you're feeling now and imagine it in this thing which you are so afraid to do. Imagine the same posture, holding your body the same way, the same absence of anxiety, seeing yourself go through. You can open your eyes. Now, this was an extremely short visualization, but you can do things like this regularly to get used to the idea of what you need to do. You can also just do the action, of course, but the benefit that this has is it's a safer space. If I'm pretending, quote unquote, to do something, it is less scary. Not even a visualization. I want you to think of it as a simulation. Lots of different professions, from pilots to chefs, etc., will do simulations of different things in order to prepare for the big event. So this is your simulation training. Now, step number 6, this is the absolute last one here before we wrap up. This is a visibility plan. And you can take all of this stuff and implement what I've said, but what really helps you to take action, to be consistent, to be accountable, to grow that confidence incrementally is going to be having a concrete visibility plan. Whenever I'm doing lessons in my programs, whether it's how to be a podcast guest or how to be a podcast host, there are the lessons. But then there's also the how do we keep this going plan? How do we make sure we actually act on this stuff? And that is where you come into organizing what are these components. So the biggest things you can think of, I'll tell you the main ones I would include, but you can start with one. Goals. Firm, specific. What is your goal? As an example, one of my visibility strategies is being on podcast. My goal is to pitch 20 shows a month. Now, I have help to do this, so you don't have to start with that, but it's a specific goal. It's one thing. Then I have target audience, second component. Who am I trying to reach? When I'm doing these pitches, I'm very specific about, am I talking to entrepreneurs, entrepreneur podcasts, Or am I going on to wellness and mindset ones? But I'm very clear, I'm not going on to a parenting podcast, for example, because I'm focusing my audience in specific ways. Then it's content strategy. What is the content strategy for this goal? If my goal is I'm pitching these shows, how am I making that happen? What content will I share on those shows? How will I design these pitches? How will I promote them once I do them? Content strategy is important. Engagement and networking. How can I have this content, but then ensure that it gets engagement? Because if I put it out there and nothing happens, what do I do? So my strategy here is if I get on those shows, what do I then focus on? How do I share? Networking is, with these different podcast hosts, important component here. And then lastly, measurement. How do I measure my success in this? Do I look at how many shows said yes? Do I look at their audience size? So how many people I potentially spoke to? Do I look at downloads? Do I look at how many people came over to my community? How many people became customers? All of those are metrics that I can use. And if you're feeling overwhelmed by this, start with one thing, the goal. I want to make 2 YouTube videos speaking to this audience. The target audience part I would include. This is how you get very strategic about everything that you're doing. And you could take this episode, pause it between parts, and create a full plan that would grow your business, that would bring you more people, that would make you more confident. But it comes down to you actually saying, I'm going to take this step right now. So what is your step? Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this was helpful. I hope that it gave you some ideas on how you can really grow your business and overcome this fear of visibility. You're not alone. A lot of us face this issue, this problem. And I'm sending you so much encouragement as you go after it. I'll see you in the next one.